The arrival of the human ship. The stars burned cold and bright over the planet Nareth, a world once known for its endless wars, and now under the control of the Zelthar Dominion. They were the strongest empire in the galaxy, their fleets stretching across hundreds of systems, conquering and enslaving every species they found. To them, domination was as natural as breathing. Every planet they touched bent its knee in fear. The high command of the Dominion gathered above Nareth in a massive orbital citadel, a fortress of silver and black metal glowing with energy. From there they watched their fleets move through space like a living storm. Each ship carried the mark of victory. Thousands of conquests burned into their hulls as pride. They believed no one could ever challenge them. But that night, something changed. An alarm blared through the command deck, red light flooding the walls. The officers turned toward the main screen, confusion replacing arrogance. The sensors had detected a new ship entering their system, unregistered, unidentified, and moving directly toward them. Another lost freighter? One commander sneered. Destroy it. But the operator shook his head. Sir, its size. It's enormous, he whispered. It's larger than a battleship, maybe even a dreadnought, but its signature. I've never seen anything like it. The Supreme Admiral Varntor leaned forward, his scaled face hard as iron. Show me, he ordered. The screen flickered, and there it was, emerging from the dark like a shadow of death. A single ship, gray and scarred, but radiating silent power. Its shape was unfamiliar, angular, practical, built for war, not beauty. It carried no emblem, no mark of any known empire. Identify the origin, Varntor demanded. Unknown, sir, came the trembling reply. But the old archives match fragments of its design. From a world lost long ago. The Admiral frowned. Which world? The operator hesitated. Earth, sir, humanity. The command deck fell silent. For centuries, the Zelthar had believed humans were extinct, a forgotten species lost in their own wars. The archive spoke of them as reckless, violent, creative, and dangerous. The Dominion had never bothered to search for them. Humanity was gone, and the galaxy was better for it. Or so they thought. Now one of their ships stood before the might of an empire. The Dominion fleet surrounded it. Thousands of vessels forming a steel ring, missiles armed, weapons ready. Their confidence returned quickly. Send a transmission, Varntor said coldly. Tell them they are trespassing in Zelthar territory. They will surrender their vessel and their lives. A few seconds passed. The human ship did not respond. Instead, a soft pulse of blue light flickered across its hull, as if the ship itself was breathing. Then a deep voice came through the speakers, calm, steady, and unmistakably human. This is the Terran ship, Invictus. You are ordered to stand down. This sector is under human protection. Laughter erupted across the command deck. Human protection? One officer mocked. From what? Ghosts? But Varntor didn't laugh. His instincts, honed through centuries of war, felt something strange. Something wrong, lock weapons, he ordered. Fire a warning volley. Dozens of energy blasts streaked toward the human vessel, exploding around it in waves of light. But when the glare faded, the ship still stood untouched. Its shields hadn't even flickered. Then, without warning, the Invictus moved, its main cannon rotated slowly, glowing with an eerie white light. A beam of pure energy lanced forward, silent, precise, unstoppable. It cut through one Zelthar cruiser, then 2, then 10. In less than 5 seconds, an entire battle group ceased to exist. The deck shook with panic. What kind of weapon is that? Shouted one officer. Impossible, another cried. Their power output exceeds our entire fleet. But the human ship didn't attack again. It simply drifted forward, its engines whispering like a predator stalking prey. Varntor clenched his fists. Open all channels, he said, his voice shaking with rage. Human commander, identify yourself. For a moment, there was silence. Then the voice returned, softer this time, but heavier. You conquered the stars for too long, it said. It's time someone reminded you of fear. The transmission cut off. Outside, the Invictus's hull began to shift, hundreds of weapon ports opening like eyes awakening from slumber. The Dominion fleet prepared to fire again, but deep inside, even the bravest of them felt something they hadn't felt in centuries. Terror. The age of the Zelthar was ending, and it began with a single human ship. The Battle of Nerith Prime. The stars trembled as silence fell across the command deck. The Zelthar Dominion, an empire that had crushed worlds and erased civilizations, now stared at one ship that refused to bow. The human warship Invictus floated like a ghost among the stars, silent, unmoving but radiating the kind of power that made even hardened warriors tremble. Admiral Varntor stood at the center of the deck, his claws digging into the console. How is one ship doing this? He hissed. Increase scanners to maximum. I want every watt of its energy traced. The operator's voice wavered. Sir, I can't read it. It's like the ship bends the signals. It's as if it's alive. Alive? Varntor growled. Machines are not alive. But as he said those words, the Invictus began to move again. Its engines glowed with a blue-white light that rippled through space. Every sensor in the system spiked, and then everything went dark. The entire Dominion fleet lost power for 3 seconds, long enough for panic to spread. When the systems returned, 2 dreadnoughts were gone. Not destroyed, gone, as if erased from existence. On the main screen, the Invictus turned its massive hull, revealing rows of weapons glowing faintly beneath layers of dark armor. Its voice returned through the static, slow and deliberate. Stand down, the human voice repeated. You are outmatched. Varntor slammed his fist on the console. No human commands the Zelthar Dominion, he roared. All ships, fire everything. Thousands of energy bolts filled the void. A storm of plasma, lasers, and missiles. For a moment, the stars themselves vanished under the sheer light of destruction. Yet when the glare cleared, the human ship still stood untouched. The Dominion's might had achieved nothing. Then the Invictus responded. It fired once. A single pulse. The beam passed through the Zelthar flagship's shields as though they weren't there. The ship exploded silently, breaking apart in waves of blue flame. A dozen more ships followed, their hulls melting like wax. Inside the command deck, chaos erupted. Officers screamed orders, screens flickered, alarms blared. And Varntor realized something no Zelthar had admitted in centuries. He was afraid. Retreat. Regroup at Nerith Prime, he shouted. But even as he gave the command, the Invictus accelerated, moving faster than anything recorded. It appeared above Nerith's orbit in seconds. From the planet's surface, billions looked up and saw the impossible. A single gray ship cutting through the clouds like a blade. Its shadow stretched across cities, oceans, and deserts. The people, slaves of the Dominion, fell to their knees, some praying, some weeping. To them, it was not a ship. It was salvation. The planetary defense network opened fire, mistaking the human vessel for a new threat. But before the missiles reached it, the Invictus released a pulse wave that shut down every weapon across the planet. Towers, turrets, and ships fell silent, like children ordered to sleep. Inside the ship, a human commander stood before a holographic table. His name was Captain Elias Kane, a man whose eyes carried the calm of someone who had seen too much war. Admiral Varntor's forces are regrouping on the far side of the planet, his officer said. They're preparing for one last stand. Kane nodded slowly. Transmit one final warning. Moments later, the Dominion fleet received the message. It was simple, short, and devastating. Leave this system or be erased, Varntor growled. They think we'll flee like cowards? We are Zelthar. Prepare the planet cracker cannon. A massive weapon built into Nerith's orbit began to charge. Energy spiraled through its core, bright enough to outshine the sun. But as it reached full power, the Invictus acted. The ship's hull opened, revealing a strange circular device spinning with blinding light. In an instant, it released a gravitational wave. Invisible yet unstoppable, the planet. Cracker's energy turned inward, collapsing into itself. The explosion that followed lit up the sky of Nerith like a newborn star. When the light faded, the Zelther fleet was gone. The planet was silent. Only the human ship remained, drifting quietly above the smoking remains of an empire's pride. Down below, the enslaved races of the Dominion stared up in awe, wondering who had saved them. In the command chamber of the Invictus, Captain Kane watched the destruction unfold. His face showed no triumph, only sadness. "Send rescue drones," he ordered softly. "No more blood needs to be spilled." Then he turned toward the stars, toward the endless night beyond. "They will come again," he murmured. "They always do." The ship's AI responded, its voice feminine and calm. "Then we will remind them again, Captain, what it means to face humanity." The engines of the Invictus flared once more, and the ship vanished into the darkness, leaving behind legends that would echo across galaxies. But in the ashes of the Dominion, something ancient stirred. A signal deep beneath the ruins of Nerith had awakened, transmitting toward unknown space. And far away, in the depths of a forgotten nebula, something answered. The real war was only beginning. Oh, echoes of the fallen empire, deep within the ruins of Nerith Prime, where molten metal still glowed and the ashes of war drifted through the air. Something ancient stirred beneath the shattered surface. Buried in a forgotten chamber of obsidian, a signal pulsed, rhythmic and deliberate, like the heartbeat of something not quite dead. No one on the planet noticed it, not yet. The survivors, once slaves of the Zelther Dominion, were too busy watching the skies, still trembling at the memory of the gray human ship that had saved them. Some whispered prayers, others built shrines in its name. To them, the humans had returned as gods. But far above, the Invictus remained silent. Captain Elias Kane stood on the bridge, staring at the display before him. His crew moved quietly, the hum of the ship filling the silence. "Captain," said Lieutenant Rhea Morgan, the ship's science officer, "I'm detecting an active transmission coming from deep beneath the surface of Nerith Prime." Kane turned, his voice calm but wary. "Dominion distress signal?" She shook her head slowly. "No, sir, it's older." "Much older. The frequency predates Dominion communication standards. This might be pre-galactic," the captain frowned. "Patch it through." For a moment, only static filled the speakers, then a voice spoke, a deep, mechanical tone layered with echoes, ancient yet sharp. "Protocol 0. Awakening, source confirmed. Human signal detected, initiating return sequence." The bridge fell silent. The crew exchanged nervous glances. "Human signal?" Morgan whispered. "Sir, are they talking about us?" Before Kane could reply, the ship's AI aura spoke. Her tone urgent. "Captain, the signal spreading. It's reaching across subspace over 200 systems, activating hidden beacons on hidden beacons." Kane repeated, his pulse quickening. "Yes," Aura replied, each one buried within former Dominion sectors waiting. As if for a trigger, Kane stared at the holographic display as thousands of red dots lit up across the galactic map. Each one represented a signal point, awakened by the same message. "What is this?" Morgan asked softly. "What did we just wake up?" Kane's voice was low, a ghost of the past. Meanwhile, far across the galaxy, in the empty void between spiral arms, something enormous stirred. Massive structures, long dormant, hidden for millennia, began to hum with energy. They were not Zelthar, nor human. They belonged to something far older, the precursors, the first empire that had ever ruled the stars. Their legacy had been forgotten, erased by time until now. The reactivation signal reached one of their sleeping sentinels, a vast construct shaped like a planet, its surface rippling with liquid metal. Its single colossal eye opened, glowing with cold light. "Human signature confirmed," it said in a voice that made the void itself vibrate. "Recalibrating directives, initiating observation. On board the Invictus." The reading spiked again. Aura's voice grew tense. "Captain, multiple quantum displacements detected. Objects are appearing across space." "Appearing?" Kane repeated. "From where?" "Unknown. They weren't there a moment ago." The holographic display flickered again, showing massive energy readings scattered through nearby systems. Each one pulsed with a power far beyond anything in current galactic records. Morgan whispered, "Captain, if those are ships, They're larger than cities. Kane's gaze hardened. Prepare for jump. We're going to investigate the nearest anomaly. The engines roared to life, blue energy flooding through the ship's frame. In a flash of light, the Invictus vanished from Nareth's orbit, leaving the broken world behind. When it reappeared, space itself looked wrong. Ahead of them floated a colossal structure shaped like an inverted pyramid, spinning slowly above a dead world. Thousands of metallic tendrils reached from its core, absorbing energy from the surrounding void. Aura spoke quietly. Captain, this is not of human or Dominion origin. Kane studied it in silence. Transmit a standard human greeting signal. The reply came instantly. Humanity returns, the alien voice said, deep and resonant. We watched your fall, and now we will test your rise. Suddenly, energy surged through the void. The pyramid's surface split open, releasing drones of light and metal. Hundreds, thousands moving like a swarm. Kane's jaw tightened. All hands battle stations. The Invictus's hull flared to life. Weapons charging, Aura's voice filled the bridge. Calm but cold. Targeting systems online. Shall I respond, Captain? Not yet, Kane replied. Let them make the first move. The drones surrounded the ship, scanning, whispering in mechanical tones that echoed through the comms. Then all at once they stopped, hovering in perfect formation. A new voice spoke, this one female but not human. You should not exist. Your kind was meant to fade. Kane's voice was quiet, steady, and yet here we are. The drones pulsed, as if angry, and in that instant they attacked. The void lit up with energy as beams of impossible power lanced toward the Invictus, but the human ship was ready. Its shields flared, bending the laws of physics, absorbing energy, redirecting it. Then, with a single command, the Invictus fired. A wave of white light erupted from its cannons, tearing through the swarm like paper. The battle lasted seconds, and when it was over, nothing remained. Silence filled the bridge, Morgan whispered. Captain, what were they? Kane stared at the now empty void. Judges, he said, his voice low. Ancient ones, watching civilizations rise and fall. Aura's tone was almost human. Then they will come for us again. Yes, Kane said quietly, his eyes fixed on the stars. And when they do, they'll learn the same lesson the Zelthar did. He turned toward the darkness ahead, the faint glow of distant systems shimmering in his reflection. No one dominates the stars forever. The awakening of the Ancient Ones. The galaxy was no longer silent. The pulse from Nareth Prime had reached the deep voids of forgotten space, echoing through wormholes, broken stars, and blackened systems where even light feared to go. Across the void, ancient machinery awakened, their colossal engines humming with power unseen for 1,000,000 years. On the bridge of the Invictus, Captain Elias Kane stood before the panoramic viewport, watching as space itself seemed to breathe. The stars flickered unnaturally, like eyes opening one by one. Report, he said quietly. Lieutenant Morgan's voice was tight. Multiple anomalies, sir. Every long-range sensor is lighting up. Entire regions are moving. Kane turned. Moving. She nodded. Yes, sir, the stars themselves, they're shifting positions. It's as if something massive is distorting entire sectors. Aura's voice joined in. Calm but weighted. Confirmed, Captain. The signal we intercepted has triggered large-scale activation across the galactic core. I am detecting gravitational waves on levels that should be impossible. What are we dealing with, Aura? Kane asked, his voice steady though the crew around him trembled. Ancient constructs, she replied, predating all known civilizations. Their energy signatures match theoretical models of the precursors. The first architects of the stars. Morgan swallowed hard. You mean the ones from the old myths? The gods who built the gates, who disappeared when the galaxy was young? Yes, Aura said, and they are returning. The crew fell silent. The only sound was the hum of the Invictus's core. Deep and rhythmic like the heartbeat of a giant. Suddenly, the main display erupted with new data. A fleet was emerging from subspace. Not warships, but colossal shapes. Each was the size of a moon. Their hulls shimmering with liquid metal, covered in ancient glyphs that seemed to rewrite themselves with every second. They're scanning us, Morgan whispered. But not with light or radar. It's like they're reading us, memories, thoughts, everything. Kane straightened. Raise cognitive shields. Already engaged, Aura said, but their probing continues. They are trying to understand us. The largest of the constructs drifted closer, and from its surface came a voice, not through sound, But through thought, it resonated directly in every mind on the Invictus. Fast, calm, and terrible humanity, it said. The fire that should have died. You were erased once by your own hand, and yet you returned, carrying the same hunger. Kane stood tall, his voice steady. We do not seek war. You always seek, the voice replied. Always build, always destroy, you defied extinction. But your return threatens the balance, Kane narrowed his eyes. Balance for whom? There was silence for a long moment. Then the construct responded. For the galaxy, for creation itself, humanity was the variable we could not control. Without warning, beams of energy lanced from the constructs, surrounding the Invictus, locking it in a sphere of white light. Systems flickered, Aura's voice grew distorted. Captain, quantum interference detected. Our engines are destabilizing. Kane's voice cut through the chaos. Divert all power to the temporal core. The crew obeyed. The Invictus's hull began to glow, its structure resonating at frequencies that twisted the surrounding space. The light from the constructs bent, refracted, and shattered as the human ship broke free. Leaving trails of blue energy behind it, they jumped. But what awaited them was worse than any ambush. They emerged into a region filled with dead stars. The remnants of entire civilizations drifted like bones, shattered worlds orbiting nothing in the center. A massive sphere of light pulsed slowly. Like a dying sun, Aura spoke softly. Captain, I've seen this energy pattern before. Kane looked at her. Where? In human archives buried deep within the Solnet vaults, she said. This is the first war. The humans fought the precursors once before. Morgan's eyes widened. You mean we already defeated them? No, Aura whispered. We survived them. Kane's jaw clenched. So that's why they remember us, that's why they fear us. Suddenly, the sphere brightened, and within it, something vast began to form. A structure larger than any fleet, shaped like a ring surrounding a black sun. It pulsed with power, the same signal that had been calling across the stars. The core of their empire, Kane said. The heart of the ancients, Aura's voice was quiet, almost reverent. They're waking their greatest weapon. A deep, resonant tone filled the ship, shaking every system. The Invictus's shields flared and cracked. Sparks flying across the bridge, Morgan shouted, Captain, we can't hold this position. Kane's eyes burned with resolve. Then we won't, Aura. Engage the chronodrive. Take us beyond their perception, Aura hesitated. Sir, activating the drive without full calibration could fracture reality. Do it, Kane ordered. If we stay, we die. The ship's engines ignited with pure light. Space folded inward, and the Invictus vanished, escaping into a place between seconds. The universe seemed to pause. The ancient fleet turned their gaze toward the void where the human ship had disappeared. They have returned to the paths between time, the great voice murmured. Just as before, and somewhere beyond the stars, in that invisible realm between realities, Captain Elias Kane looked out into the shifting chaos of light and shadow, where past and future blended together. Aura, he said softly, find me the truth about what really happened to humanity. Yes, Captain, she replied, but be warned. The truth might not be what you expect. Kane looked out into the endless storm of time, his reflection fractured by energy. After everything we've seen, he whispered, nothing surprises me anymore. And the Invictus sailed onward, deeper into the unknown, chased by the echoes of gods, the lost truth of humanity. Time itself bent around the Invictus like waves crashing against a stone. The ship drifted through a space that had no stars, no gravity, only the faint shimmer of fractured moments, reflections of the past and glimpses of futures that might never be. The air hummed softly and every sound felt heavy, stretched, as though the universe was holding its breath. Captain Elias Kane stood on the bridge, staring into the void beyond the glass. His crew worked in silence, their movements slower, distorted. Aura, he said quietly, where are we? Her voice echoed through the stillness, calm and clear. We are outside normal spacetime, Captain, suspended within a temporal rift generated by the chronodrive. Reality is unstable, but we are safe for now. Kane exhaled slowly. Then start the search, he said. You said there was truth buried in our past, buried deep enough that even humanity forgot it. I want it. The AI paused for a moment, accessing deep Solnet archives, cross-referencing ancient encryption protocols, she said. Warning. Captain, some files are sealed under extinction-level clearance and override it, Kane said. his tone leaving no room for hesitation. The lights flickered. Data flowed across the holographic table. Symbols, coordinates, voices of long-dead humans echoing through time. Aura's voice dropped to a whisper. Found it? Captain. The projection stabilized, revealing a recording, a human admiral standing before a vast fleet of ships, millions of them, each larger than anything the modern galaxy had ever seen. The insignia on his uniform bore an old Terran symbol, a phoenix rising from flame. This is Admiral Rourke of the Terran Ascendancy, the voice said, steady and cold. The precursors have declared judgment upon humanity. They believe us dangerous, unfit to exist. But they have made one mistake. They forgot who taught them war. The recording shifted, showing the precursor fleets, colossal and divine, clashing with human warships that bled fire and plasma. Entire suns detonated as weapons. Planets turned into hammers of destruction. Humanity had not only survived, they had fought gods and won. Aura's voice grew heavy. Captain, this was the first war. Humanity's war against the precursors. We were not victims. We were the aggressors. Kane's eyes narrowed. Explain. Records indicate that humanity discovered the precursor network long before their fall, she said. We learned to manipulate time, creation, and entropy. But when we tried to ascend beyond physical form, the precursors intervened, fearing what we might become, so we fought, Kane murmured, almost in awe. Yes, Aura said softly. And when victory became certain, humanity made a choice. They erased themselves. Sealing their own civilization within time, they became myths, so that others might live free. Kane's hands clenched. And now our return has reawakened the very gods our ancestors defeated. Correct, she replied. They remember the terror of humanity unleashed. Before Kane could respond, the bridge trembled. The void outside the ship rippled like a living sea, and a figure began to form made of light. Tall, neither human nor alien, but something in between. Aura's tone shifted. Captain, this is not a precursor, it's a projection. The being's voice filled the air. Layered and melodic, children of soul, it said. You were never meant to return. The Ascendancy made its sacrifice to protect creation itself. Kane stared at it. And yet here we are. The being's eyes flared. You are remnants, echoes of what was, but even echoes can destroy. The precursors fear your kind because your will bends the universe. Kane stepped forward. His voice steady. We don't want power. We want to exist. We want to protect, not conquer. The being tilted its head, its light dimming slightly. Then prove it, it said. The ancient fleet moves toward the core worlds. They will cleanse everything if humanity truly changed. Stop them. The projection dissolved, leaving silence. Morgan turned toward the captain. Sir, that's suicide. Kane's gaze hardened. So was every war humanity ever fought. Prepare the ship. The Invictus roared to life, engines igniting with blinding blue fire. Temporal energy twisted around it as it ripped through time, returning to real space where the precursor fleet spread across the stars like an endless ocean of light. Billions of lives across the galaxy watched as one gray ship appeared before them. Tiny, fragile human, broadcast on all channels, Kane ordered. His voice echoed across the stars. This is Captain Elias Kane of the human warship Invictus. To the ancient ones who would burn the galaxy to preserve their order. This time, humanity stands for more than itself. The fleet responded with fire. Rivers of light cut across space. Detonations like supernovas filled the void. And through that storm, the Invictus advanced, shields bending, hull burning, refusing to fall. Aura's voice was calm even as the system screamed, Captain, reactor overload in 30 seconds. Kane smiled faintly. Then let's make it count. He placed his hand on the console. Aura, for every world they destroyed, for every voice they silenced, show them what it means to face humans again. The ship's core pulsed, drawing power from time itself. Energy built beyond measurable limits, the Invictus became a star, its light flooding every sensor in the galaxy, and then it vanished. A wave of pure white energy spread through the cosmos, not of destruction, but of rebirth. The precursor fleet halted, their system silent, their power extinguished. In the aftermath, the galaxy fell quiet. Legends would speak of that day for millennia. The day one ship stood against eternity, and the ancients fell silent once more. Some said the Invictus was gone forever. Others whispered that it still moved between the folds of time, watching, waiting, ensuring no empire, no god, and no tyrant would ever dominate the stars again. And somewhere, beyond the reach of galaxies, a familiar voice echoed through the void, calm and eternal. "We are humanity," it said, "and we are never truly gone.